All right. Here we are at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I know different times. Welcome, everybody. We've got people from all over Canada, the US, and the UK, and probably other places. So welcome to the first ever Love Summit. I am so excited. I'm going to, if you are not hearing me, just type in, there's a chat there. If you go to the bottom as an attendee, you're going to see, if you bring your cursor, there's a Q&A. We'll be asking time to ask the speakers questions at the end of their talks, as well as a chat where I've left you a link to your workbook to download. So we're going over just some of the technicalities here. This is my first time using this amazing, huge welcome. Oh yes, I'm seeing everyone who's coming on. This is my first time using this big Zoom webinar, so it may take me a few little trials to get the kinks worked out. So I appreciate your patience. All right, so welcome to the first ever Love Summit. I am so excited, and I want to thank each one of you for taking the time and igniting love in the world and living your soul's divine purpose and healing in your relationships and learning how to bring and be love in action, that you're taking this time today. And I am so thankful we have 6 speakers here that for their time and their passion to share with you. So I am Jenny Hogg Ashwell. Some of you know me, some of you may not. And I have felt strongly called to bring this Love Summit to you about a year ago after the election. So I'm living in Canada, but from the States. Oh, aloha. Let's see some alohas here. And here we are a year later. And I called it Love, capital with a period. That is inspiration from Wayne Dyer, who later on in his career used to wear a t-shirt that just said love. And to me, that sums it up. We are here, many of us are here for love. It comes in many shapes and forms, the way in which you are called to bring love, to bring healing, to bring awareness, to bring connection, to bring compassion. But the bottom line is love. We're moving the world from fear to love. We're awakening to love. And in 2013, I also heard loudly and clearly my own calling and soul assignment to bring love through a book called Love's Curriculum. So I'll show you, some of you know this. Here we go. And it's called Love's Curriculum, Messages of Enlightenment. And there's a long story to it. You can find much of it in the book. A good long story of remembering my own soul's calling, and through connecting with my angels and guides and my own soul and that higher part of me, I got in touch with it. I had an assignment, and I saw a vision of the book Love's Curriculum. And I could hear like an inner dictation and an inner knowing that there was a group of spiritual beings with me who needed me to write this book, to bring it forward. And you'll hear from Dana DuPont today, and she was there helping me move through a lot of the fears associated with hearing that calling and surrendering to being a scribe, to being a channel. And the High Council is the group for whom I scribed the book, and they include Jesus and the archangels and other light teachers. And the book is very much in line with A Course in Miracles and the way that a voice brought that book forward. And Love's Curriculum is a book for our time, right here, right now, to encourage us to awaken, to do what you're doing here today, to show up, to learn, to know, to remember your soul's calling, and to remember love, and that you are love and loved, and that you are being guided guided by the universe, by Creator, by God, by the Holy Spirit, the goddess, whatever symbol term works for that higher connection of love that exists among all of us. So, and I want to fast forward or reverse even farther back. Some of you may not know that I didn't start out as a divine channel or scribe. In fact, I began my career as a lawyer. Some of you may or may not know that, back in 1996. And that was a career that I had chosen from logic. I had, through university, really lost touch with the part of my heart that wanted to help in the world and really wanted to save the world. But through university, I began to put on a mask of owning what others wanted for me, that I should go into a very financially productive career. And I ended up graduating it with a business degree. And then I went to law school. And on that first day of my first job as a lawyer, I got a gift. I got a wake-up call from my soul. As I, of all places, walked into the washroom on that first day, after leaving an orientation session, I heard an internal voice that said, your soul wants to do something else, remember? This isn't what you want to do. This isn't the life you wanted to create. And I felt it in my solar plexus and my gut. And I made a choice in that moment that no longer would I not hear that voice or follow others' guidance for me or wear that mask. I was going to start to listen to that voice, and I did. And it took me on a huge, amazing spiritual and personal growth journey. That was the point that I started to listen to what I wanted to study and learn. And it was spiritual and personal growth and development and intuition and energy work and Reiki. And I also knew I wanted to be a mom. And I ended up leaving law 3 years later. I ended up also realizing through my own work that I was in a very unhealthy relationship. One, I had built it upon this mask. And two, I, with some counseling help, realized that it was a verbally abusive relationship. And with support, I realized for me at that time in my life, the best thing for me was to get to a place where I could leave with love. And so I did. And I ended up moving to Canada, meeting another young man and having children, navigating another divorce, co-parenting, and ended up following this guidance of continuing to take courses and spiritual development and workshops, and found my way to Clear Mind International, who you will be hearing from today as well. That's where I studied transpersonal counseling psychology. And then after graduating there, and with the help of that course, really again learning more about who is this true authentic me that wants to express in the world. And then that is when I felt guided to take another course on intuition, even though I had just graduated from my 3-year counseling training. And my husband thought, oh my goodness, wait, weren't you done? Aren't you going to be a counselor now? And I did. I've been working as a counselor, and also knew that there was this intuitive class I needed to take. And I did. And it was after that that I really had this connection to this remembering and the guidance that I was to bring forth Love's curriculum. And here we are at the Love Summit, which is a part of this, is a part of how do we ignite love? What does that look like in action in our families and our relationships? So we're going to hear from 6 amazing speakers here in a minute. And before I introduce the first speaker, we are going to do a prayer and an intention for this lovely time together, for this amazing opportunity to connect in this energy of love, this intention for love in the world, and this environment of learning and transformation. I know there will be some transformation going on here as you listen today and as we join. So I invite you, if you want, to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And so I invite now that all of your highest selves come forward, that your soul essences that are expressing in this unique human form that is you, and that the human self of you as well is present for guidance and help here today, that you come as a unified being of spirit in this human experience here. I truly believe each one of you is here with a calling in your heart. And so let's intend that that calling that is calling you forward to growth or a new job or a more authentic expression of yourself, that you get a jump start here, that you get a leap forward here, that you get to move past any blocks or walls that you might be feeling in that momentum to bring love, to be love in action. And we ask that your loving divine helpers, that the divine, the God, Creator, the Holy Spirit, whatever form for the divine, for that highest self in you, whatever name works for you, please feel free to call upon that. And we ask that that guiding force of love that connects us all, that has brought you, each one of you, here today, that it be active among us all, that it come through the speaker's words, that it come through me, that it come through to you, that this whole Love Summit is guided for your highest good, for your awakening, for your remembering, and for you to take action of love. And so again, we ask that it be guided by Spirit for the highest good of all and in the name of love. And so it is. All right. So I am going to introduce our first speaker. I'm going to bring her on here. Taunya Zipse. Let's see, we'll get her camera going here. There she is. Hello.
Hello, Jenny.
So we have Taunya Zipse. Taunya is a master therapeutic counselor. I met Taunya in my counseling training program at Clear Mind, and we are soul sisters and have been on this healing journey together. And Taunya focuses, she's a relationship expert and therapist and coach, and she has a beautiful message about feeling our feelings and how to be in relationship with yourself so that you can be in relationship with others. And today she's going to be sharing with us how to thrive in your primary relationship. All right. So I know we're a couple minutes early. Let's see if I have any other I have many beautiful things to say about Taunya. I know she's got amazing intensives for couples and individuals, retreats. You'll hear more about that. And let's see. I knew I was going to say something personal about each one of you speakers here because you have touched my life so incredibly. And Taunya, I want to honor your integrity and your commitment and your passion for this work, and that you are answering this call of your heart to be here today and to share with these wonderful listeners about thriving in our personal and primary relationships. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. All right. So thank you all for tuning in for the very first Love Summit. And again, I just want to honor Jenny that she had the courage to hear a calling and then to step into it and actually enact it to make it happen. And for me, my calling is to and I'll take you through a couple of my stories, but it's really to bring love to the human part of us, to really enact the concept of love through all of the messy emotion and imperfections, and help people to get authentic. And so, I'm just honored to be here, and thank you so much for your time. So I'd like to bring to you today 3 ways that you can enact love in your primary relationship. And what spurred on these particular 3 ways is the times, the hours, over 3,000 hours of being with clients, and also my friends and family, and seeing in society, on social media, how many people feel lonely in their relationship. How many people feel disengaged in their relationship, in their love relationship, in their romantic relationship. That they're living these years together as roommates, and have a sense of that their partner doesn't have their back. And I know that place because I've been there. And that's where I'd like to time travel back a little bit. Not even that long ago, just 7 years. 7 years ago, my husband and I, we at the time were living in Texas. And we have what I kept hearing time and time again, the $1 million family. So I have a girl and a boy, 2 little blondes. And I have the husband who is doing well in his business, climbing the corporate ladder. And I'm blessed to be a stay-at-home mom, which is the very thing that I wanted. When my husband and I met and we agreed upon having kids, both of us knew, and we were very blessed to have that mutual alignment, that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was blessed to be able to do that. So here we are in Texas, in this new community. And very exciting, because growing up in Calgary with snow a lot of the time of the year, the idea of having a pool in my backyard, it was like living a movie, really. It was like enacting a Hollywood movie with my 2 little kids and my husband. It fit perfectly with this persona that I had been perfecting over my adult years. And the persona is actually perfection. Anybody out there a recovering perfectionist? Or maybe you're stuck in the middle of perfection? Well, I could tell you, you're not alone. And it's something I still face. Like today, trying to show up perfectly for you. Finally, about a half an hour ago, I gave up on that. And I'm like, you know what? I've got a cold. I'm going to be coughing. I'm not going to move sequentially through this. But what I do want to do is I want to be in relationship with you. I want to be able to show you a real person who has transformed her life. And I want to take you through some of those steps that I used that truly took me from a place of this perfectionist, this person. I was somebody who, what we call, overfunctioned. I did for others what they could do for themselves, and I did it to the extreme. So, my kids, they would pour out their cereal, and before their cereal was finished being poured into the bowl, I was pouring their milk to just the perfect level. So I think it was my son loved it not quite floating, and my daughter liked it to float. Before they even asked me, I was always doing that. I was always ahead of whatever their request was. My husband, the minute that he would have a look on his face, I was figuring it out. I was like, oh, this means this means that, before he even opened his mouth. And when he would open his mouth, I was often interjecting before he even finished his sentence, giving him his answer. Anybody relating with that one at all? Well, let me paint the picture a little further for you. I also took this into my friendships. So if anybody had a birthday, I was making sure I was the first person to say thank you. I was always ensuring that my kids' play dates were perfect, that I wanted to make sure that my kids had friends. And so I was baking fresh cookies. I would even buy new toys for that specific play date. Yeah, over the top, really over the top. I did that because I was trying to give myself a sense of value. I wanted to ensure that I had a place of belonging in my family and that I was needed. Of course, I wasn't aware of it at the time. That was subconscious. But the perfection even went a little bit further, a lot further. It went to the point of, at that time, 7 years ago, I was at about 22 years into an eating disorder. And it brings up emotion for me still. 22 years of bulimia, binging and purging daily so that I didn't have to feel, so that I could shut out all of my emotions. I could binge to numb and purge to cleanse. And I did. It worked. I got rid of everything except for one emotion. Shame. You can't run from shame. And especially I couldn't run from it because I was hurting myself. I didn't see that. But I certainly felt the shame. And it continued the pattern and enacted this running from my emotion. So I had this perfect exterior. I was 107 pounds. That wasn't enough. I was also an Ironman athlete because being a stay-at-home mom in my mind wasn't good enough for the grander scheme. So I became an Ironman athlete. The amount of effort and training that goes into running one of those events is ridiculous. If you don't know what an Ironman is, it's a 4-kilometer swim, 180-kilometer bike ride, and then a full marathon at the end. That also helped me to avoid my feelings. Now, that wasn't why I did it at the time. I did it because it was a challenge, because it was intriguing, it was enticing, there was a lot of science in trying to figure out how much energy do I give out, how much food do I need to consume, and it was very all-encompassing. So not only did I need to physically perform, I also needed to think in my brain. And so it kept me very effectively away from my feelings. So all of this, I was running through this life of exterior perfection and interior numbing. And at that time, I was entering into a program in 2010, Clear Mind International. You heard Jenny speak about it, and you're actually going to hear from the founders, Dwayne and Catherine O'Kane, right after me. Dwayne and Catherine O'Kane created an amazing integral program. And I took that program that they made and I enacted every single thing I was invited to do. So I became an expert of their program. I became an expert of the messiness, the integrity, the concepts, and ultimately the relationship. It was through enacting all of those pieces and components and really diving into it that I was able to get in the most important relationship in my life. The single most important relationship. What do you think that might be? Who do you think is the most important person to be in relationship with? It's yourself. Let me tell you a quick story from Texas as well. I believe it was about 2000. It was the start of the program, and it's called the Practitioner Training Program to become a counselor. And that's what I was on the path for. I was going to, Ironman wasn't enough. Being a stay-at-home mom wasn't enough. I was looking ahead going, I'm going to need something else. I need another identity. And so in this program, our assignment at the time was to notice our anxiety. It wasn't a problem for me. I didn't have anxiety. I didn't feel anything except shame. So I went about my day and I was like, oh, those poor souls. Got to look at their anxiety. Oh man, that sucks. Glad it's not me. Well, I was out doing some errands that day that this lesson enacted for me. And I was driving my white minivan, and I happened to be driving my minivan into a Target parking lot. Now, Target is a well-known big box store in the United States, and they literally have a Target for a logo. Super amazing metaphor for the experience that I went through. So here I am. Imagine I'm driving in my white minivan, not aware at all about my emotions, pull into the parking lot, and I'm just about to jump out and fill my cart with all of these things that I needed to do for the Parent-Teacher Association. Of course, I was a board member of it. We were going to be running a massive event in the next week. So very important. I felt important. I had an identity, and I was about to go fulfill that task. And I'm in there in my van, and I open the door. And that moment that I open the door, I'm all of a sudden gripped by this tightness, this sensation, over the top sensation in my chest. And I couldn't identify it as panic at the time, but now I know that's what it was, panicked. And I'm holding on to the door, and I slam the door shut. And I hear in my mind my teacher's voice. Sit in your feeling. I don't know if you've ever tried to sit in your feeling before for a first time. So I slam the door, I have my hands on the steering wheel, and I'm gripping and terrified that I'm gonna die. Not necessarily the thought I had, that's the feeling I had. And I'm sitting here, I'm going, sit in my feeling, sit in my feeling, sit in my feeling, over and over and over in this panic state. And I found myself at that moment just looking down as I kept repeating, sit in my feeling, sit in my feeling. How the hell do I sit in my feeling, sit in my feeling? How do I do this, sit in my feeling? And I'm looking down, and as I start to do that, I start to put my attention into that feeling, into that massive physical sensation that I was having. And I'm in there, and I'm like, sit in my feeling, sit in my feeling, and I'm focusing on the feeling, and I breathe. And I'm like, oh, I take another breath. And I'm focusing on my feeling, my sensation, this gripping. And if you can feel it gripping right now, try this with me. Breathe into the sensation. And here I am in my van, and all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I'm 37, 38 years old, I can't remember. First time in my life. First time that it feels okay for me to be in an emotion. First time in my life that I feel okay in my body. Remember, I've been running from my body. I've been stuffing my body. I've been destroying my body. And it's the first time in my life, in that moment of breathing into my physical sensation, that I meet myself. And it's there that I begun my relationship with me. It's there that I realize that there is a level of control. I'm like, woo, control! There's a level of control for me in the middle of that massive, scary place of panic. The control is the ability to look inside, identify where in my body am I feeling something, and to breathe space there. And you're going to hear this one come up again in just a little bit. Well, I tell you, that space of getting in relationship with myself and enacting all of these steps that I was given, I turned my life around. I turned from that person that it was okay to beat myself up to a person that I stopped bulimia like that because it was no longer acceptable for me. It was no longer a place that I can be okay with hurting myself anymore because I was now in relationship with myself. I became a mom, instead of a helicopter mom, always hanging over my kids, to a conscious parent. And in my relationship with my husband, I no longer watched him to figure out what it was that I was going to feel and be and blamed him. I actually became a participating partner in our relationship. Like, I owned my part of the relationship, and it changed our entire life, to the point where I'm in a position now where I'm here right now talking to you across the world. And this is a place that I could have never done before, because I would have been so scared about how I look on the outside and how I show up and this emotion that I'm giving. That wouldn't have been okay. It would have been scary and foreign and judged. So I would like to walk you through 3 of those big key pieces for me that I learned and was able to enact. And I hope that's okay with you. The first thing that I'd like to teach you is that piece about finger pointing. So, yes, thank you so much, Jenny. That I will be touching in at the last thing that I'm going to be talking about is going to be the worksheet that's in the workbook on the download that you got from the Love Summit. There's also going to be, I'll put in the chat, a free meditation, which actually walks you through that very process that I did in my minivan that day. Okay, so moving on to finger pointing. Oh my goodness gracious. Did this ever wake me up? When I, excuse me, when I started to notice, whenever I point my finger out, and maybe you've heard this, maybe it's a cliche for you by now, when you notice that finger pointing out, how many fingers are pointing back at yourself? 1, 2, 3. So there's a saying, when you're pointing your finger, there's 1 going out at them, 3 coming back at you. So therefore, it means more about you. What it is that I am pointing at the other, and I'll use my primary relationship, my partner, my husband. Whenever I point my finger at my husband, what I'm pointing at in him means more about me than it does about him. So again, let me give you an example. One thing that I used to notice in my husband a whole heck of a lot was arrogance, or something I perceived as arrogance. And we would be at a social event or something, and he has a crowd gathering around him, and he's talking, and his chest is coming up. Well, in my mind, I saw that as arrogance. And I'd be pointing my finger going, oh, shame on you. Arrogant. Shame, shame, shame. Well, it's because for me, arrogance is something that is shameful, that is frowned upon. And it was something that came from my family of origin, the messaging in my family, that it isn't okay to show arrogance. It wasn't okay to be boastful. And so when I saw my husband in this puffed out state, I would assume he was arrogant. Yeah, sometimes he was arrogant, but you know what? A lot of the time he was actually proud. He was actually just taking up the space that he should be taking up, or he deserved to take up. So what I want for you is to notice every time that you point your finger out. Typically, when we point our finger, we're pointing it to judge, to say, you're not getting this right. You're not saying it right. You're not being right. Okay, so we're judging them on what they're doing. The other way we do this is blame, right? So it's all your fault. Well, if you hadn't done this, then this wouldn't have been my experience. Well, if you hadn't have said that, then I wouldn't have gotten mad. It's a beautiful way to deflect so that you don't have to feel anything. The problem is it doesn't last. And the bigger, deeper problem is you're not being accountable when you're blaming. Don't worry, I say you, I mean we. We all do this. We all point our finger. We all can find times that we're judging or we're blaming. You know, I'd like you to pull up a time right now. Think about maybe it's in your primary relationship or Perhaps it's in your at work with a coworker or with your boss or an employee. Just recall a moment where you notice yourself going, well, if you just, well, you didn't, well, you shouldn't, or you should have. Notice any of those thoughts. And see if you can recall that moment. And in there, see if you can actually notice the quality, right? The quality that you're finger pointing at, that you're judging or you're blaming. Excuse me. Fighting a cold. So sorry. Hope that doesn't blast your ears. So this will give you a moment to recall that a little bit easier. I chuckle when this happens. It's almost like the universe is saying, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to put yourself out there? Because every time I do this, I face my fear of being judged. And that's been my journey this year. Excuse me as I talk through this crazy voice. And I hope you can hear me. Journey of facing my own inner judge. And so in that moment that you're able to recall, I'd like you to pinpoint that quality, like the judge. And then just ask yourself, what is your relationship like with that quality that you see in the other? What is your relationship like with arrogance, with insensitivity, with mess? What is it that you're believing about essentially yourself when you show up there? Now, this isn't about blaming our family system. This isn't about blaming our parents for how we were raised. But it does absolutely come from there. These messages about how it is we need to show up in the world. These messages about all these things that we're judging and blaming others for. They're qualities that we will not own in ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to feel, or we have very strong messages about what it means. So for me, I had a very strong message about what would it mean to show up like this? You know, that old message was, it's not perfect, it's not polished, it's therefore not valid. And the funny thing, not the funny thing, the real thing is that when I show up as me, that's when I have people coming up and telling me, oh my gosh, like, thank you for the impact, thank you for inspiring me. Because self-growth is messy. Love is an emotion. It's messy. Love is an experience, a human experience. It's messy because we're humans. So if you can just allow yourself, give yourself permission to be curious about where is it that you've learned that it's not okay to whatever it is that you were judging. to not be arrogant, to not have anger. That's a big one. I notice a lot of people will suppress their anger and judge it in others. And most importantly, that message, I hope that you're able to bring it up. I hope you're able to connect with that quality that you're judging and notice the part in you that you don't allow it. And I hope that you can now ask yourself, is it true? Is this the way you want to have your life? Do you want to suppress your anger? Do you want to pretend you're never arrogant? Do you want to be polished and not present? Do you want all of those qualities that you're pointing your finger out at others? And I know, I get this is tough. I'm asking you to look at you right now. And I'm doing that because that's where I fully believe all of the research that I've studied, all of the lessons that I've learned in my own life where I have completely transformed. The essence is when we look at ourselves, when we can dial up our awareness of what's going on for us. That's the first key and critical step for anything. For any of these steps that I'm going to walk you through is your awareness. So if all you can take from this right now is just bravely turning up the volume of your awareness for when you're pointing your finger, then kudos for you. That's awesome. Because then you're going to allow yourself to move into acknowledging, right? That's acknowledging what it is that you're judging or blaming and where it's coming from. And then after we acknowledge, it's in that space we actually have choice, right? You can choose in that moment. Am I going to keep blaming them? Am I going to keep judging them? Or am I going to get in relationship with myself here and ask myself, what is it that bothers me so much? What is it about this that bothers me so much? And there, my dears, is all the power. You have choice there. And it's brave. And so as you do this, it's very easy to get niggling at yourself, like being mean, to push yourself. That's not helpful. So I really encourage you to just really invite curiosity and invite gentleness and self-compassion as you try out these new things. Right? So next time you point your finger and you can allow yourself to look back and acknowledge what's going on, kudos, celebrate it. Go, yeah, I'm aware. Okay? So we're going to move on here. As part of what I also find super, super important, and what I'm touching on already, is a concept I call auto motion. So it's auto motion. And what it is, it's a term that references those times that we are in a behavior that is driven by an emotion. Those times where all of a sudden you find yourself, I'll give you an example. You're getting ready for the day, you're rushing out the door, you're already late, you're kicking yourself, lots of mean talk about being late. You're going to show up now, you got a whole bunch of traffic, and then it's going to throw off the rest of your day. And your kid is all of a sudden calling to you as you're leaving the door, you forgot to sign my field trip. And you're like, well, the auto motion from that might be something like, well, why didn't you remind me? Lashing out, putting it on them. And then madly rushing through the house to grab the checkbook, to print off another form, and all at the same time text your business partner because you're now going to be late. The auto motion of that is the action, is the intensity, is the unintentional, unconscious and present movements that you're going through, driven by, probably in that moment, was, maybe shame. Like, I let my kid down. Or maybe it's fear. Like, how am I gonna get out of this now? How am I gonna figure it all out? And that emotion, probably the shame one, is gonna drive all of that. Whereas when we can, again, dial up the awareness, we can recognize when that familiar sensation comes up, right? So as I'm reaching for the door, if that was me, and my kid yells out, "You forgot my field trip form," I could just be like, ah, and feel that familiar sensation, because I've been doing awareness. I've been asking myself to notice these things. And here I am again going, okay, there's a sensation. There's a physical sensation in my chest, in my belly. There's a reaction in my body. I know now that I will move into automotion. I'm going to want to do things. I'm going to want to do behaviors so that I don't have to feel. Right? Remember all of that stuff I did before, the binging and purging, Ironman, doing for others? That was also, I didn't have to feel. Well, this term automotion, that's the same thing. And so in that place, if I can feel the sensation, that can be my trigger. Go, that's what's going on right now. And now I can ask myself, how do I want to show up right now? How can I be the best me in this moment? And for me, being the best me is someone who's in relationship, someone who is present and someone who is authentic. Doesn't mean that I get to be there all the time, but it does mean that I'm accountable. And so when I'm not there and I've rushed into doing something and I have something to clean up afterwards, I always come back and I acknowledge my actions and I make my amends, and I apologize and make my amends. And so with automotion, I want to encourage you to start out with this. So what I find with my clients, they're often coming in and they're telling me these scenarios, right? Like, I had this big, huge argument with my husband and things got out of control and I don't know what the heck happened. I don't even remember what we were arguing about, right? That's so common. And so I asked them to walk backwards. And it's like, okay, so what did you notice that you were doing? What were the behaviors that you found yourself doing? So that, and that's usually actually what they come in, because it's problematic behaviors in the end, right? So they usually come in and they're complaining like, oh man, I was drinking again, or I can't stop eating. I can't, like I just keep finding myself sitting at the end of the day and pigging out on potato chips, or I just can't engage in my relationship. I got to stay at work. And so we look at the behavior, right? That's happening right now, that automatic behavior, so that you're avoiding the emotion. And then we walk backwards. And so then we go, okay, so what was happening right before that? What were you feeling? What was the sensation in your body? And then they kind of go back in their mind and like, oh, I was tight. I was, my stomach was in knots. And those are the places, right? So I invite you to recall a time that you did have, an upset as we're going through this right now. And maybe you're already doing that, which would, kudos to you. Where you can look at, oh, look what I was doing, right? For me, mine was always micromanaging, right? So as soon as I noticed myself all of a sudden micromanaging my kids and my family, I knew for me, like, there's my flag, something's up. And that's all we need to acknowledge. Something's up. Something's up for me. And so let me just stop doing this behavior and bring some self-care in. Okay? Because it's through that change, through the stopping the behavior, entering self-care, that we can have a chance at meeting the emotion. And in the emotion are our needs. I want to, I'm just looking at the time to see if I have time to do this. I do. I want to share a story with you and hopefully I can remember it well, that I want you to look at the times that I'm focusing out of myself, and you'll see how this actually gets enacted. Okay. And so I'm at my 15-year-old daughter. She took on a brand new sport, and at 15, that's pretty unusual to take on a competitive sport, and she did last year, and it was volleyball. She worked her butt off. She went to tons of tryouts and clinics to try and make a team, and I was really inspired. Like I was really inspired by her drive and her dedication and her willingness to go and show up where she didn't know anyone. And she let herself fail, make mistakes, and she kept on trying. That is absolutely amazing. So we're at this volleyball tournament, and she's doing really, really well. She made a team, and she's regularly being played. And we're at a volleyball tournament where it's the first time she's not played, and she's benched. And then all of a sudden she's the flag girl. Once you're the linesman flag girl, you're not being played for that game. And I'm watching her, and I see her, like, her whole shoulders slouch and her spirit just completely dim, and her look around as if to see if others were judging her. So it was in that moment that she was representing me. So she all of a sudden became a visual metaphor for me. Of course, I wasn't aware at the time. I'm seeing her look around as if to see if others were judging her. The very thing that I continue to come back to in my self-growth. And in that moment, I'm just livid. Like, all of this emotion comes up, and I'm like, I need to move into action. And I'm sitting on this bench with these parents around me. All I want to do is just pull them to my side and start gossiping and being mad and pissed off about, why is my daughter not being played? Like, this is not fair. Like, she attends all the practices, they don't. All of this was going through my mind, and I'm literally gripping the bench to not do this because that's all I want to do. And then the next thought comes into my mind: go to the coaches, go tell them, get in their faces and tell them how come this is unfair. They should be playing my daughter. And again, I was like, I felt this real action. Like, I wanted to do this. And I'm holding on almost for dear life. I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then as I'm sitting there on this cold bleacher, I remember the time in the van. And so I recognize there's a lot of sensation up for me. I don't know what the sensation is. I'm not aware of what it is or what's driving it. But I know that there's sensation up for me, and it's about somebody else. So that's my clue. Bring it in. So I bring it in, and I'm breathing space. And I'm breathing into that intense emotion, anger, lack of justice, like all of this, like mama bear protection, like I'm going to go mess you up. And I'm breathing. You can imagine with all that emotion, it took a little while to breathe. But again, creating that space and allowing myself to be okay in the middle of all that emotion. It's there that I was able to realize that this is not about my daughter. This is not about her playing volleyball. This is about me. This is about all the times that I have strived for a goal just outside of my reach, and I've given up. There's that moment of seeing her look around like I have seen myself do. And it was holding a mirror into my face, and I didn't want to see it. I don't want to look at the part of me that gives up, right? And so I'm breathing, and I'm spending time with myself, and things start to just shift and relax, and I realize that, this is about me getting in relationship with myself. This is about me creating space to hear what else is going on. And it's in that space, right? When all of a sudden it's not about them, magic happens. We get to see them for who they are. So I no longer saw my daughter as a mini version of me, which she had all of a sudden become in that moment. And all of a sudden I'm looking at her and I'm seeing her totally different. She was doing the same actions, but I wasn't making it mean something, right? I wasn't making it mean my fears. And I tell you, this piece I've put time and time again into my relationship. So many times, my husband, he's an analytical engineer, and he's got a very neutral face, very neutral face. I don't. That neutral face I used to make mean that he's mad, that he's pissed off, usually at me or something. And I always made it mean it was my fault. And so imagine a relationship where the moment the poor guy is thinking, I'm all of a sudden on eggshells. And I'm looking around going, what the hell happened? What's going on? What do I got to fix? Right? And it's that place that, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? That's that automotion. Those are those behaviors that all of a sudden we're doing so that we don't have to feel the discomfort. Right? And so reverse engineering is usually the easiest way to figure this out. So noticing the behaviors, being able to recognize what is it that you do when you are feeling a lot? What is it that you do? Another way to check it out. What is it that you do that all of a sudden you're like, how come I'm doing this? Wait, how come all of a sudden I'm scrolling through my phone for the 3rd hour in a row? How come I'm watching the 7th episode of Netflix? How come I'm reaching for a glass of wine in the middle of the afternoon? How come I'm cleaning the house like a madwoman? Those actions, you'll learn a lot about that in Dwayne and Catherine's program. They're called anxiety binding mechanisms. Those actions, those behaviors, if you notice those behaviors, you can then use that as your flag, right? Just like I had said, oh, I'm micromanaging, let me sit back. Then you can back it out and go, what was going on? What happened for me that all of a sudden I was in that space? And then start to touch in with that physical sensation. It's harder if you start to try and think, what was the feeling I was having? Because you have to have a label for it. And you're actually looking for the emotion. So you're looking for the physical sensation, which is closely tied to the emotion. That tightness, that knot in the stomach, the dread, that, that on edge, right? When I'm walking on eggshells, that on edge. So noticing that. And then you can take it a little bit further back, ask yourself, okay, well, what prompted this? And you can notice the trigger. Oh, it was when I saw his neutral face. Oh, it was when I saw my daughter sidelined and she looked defeated. So all 3 of those moments are flags. Those are the moments where you can then have an automatic behavior become a conscious behavior. And the beauty, when it's a conscious behavior and you're aware of it, you have choice. Yes, you have choice, right? So for me, at the volleyball thing, I was able to recognize the sensation. I didn't recognize the trigger, but I was able to recognize, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a lot. And it didn't make sense. Like, why would I be feeling a lot just because she got sidelined? Really, right? I'm like, I'm feeling a lot. That was my flag to say, something's up. Let me breathe. Okay. With my husband, it was when I was like micromanaging, I'm tiptoeing around. So I had the sensation. I didn't recognize the sensation, but I noticed the behaviors that I was doing so that I didn't have to feel, right? And so I would notice the micromanaging and I'm like, oh, something's up. And now there's times where I get to notice the trigger and be like, oh, right now it's happening. And it's in those moments when we get to notice it that we get to decide, am I going to cope, right? Am I going to do my regular action that I would otherwise do? Or am I going to try something different? Right? So my way of trying something different is breathing. Pardon me, is literally breathing into your physical sensation. There's many different ways that you can try being a different with yourself. But the piece that I want you to get is then you have choice. You get to be conscious. You get to be present. You get to be integral in your relationship because you're in touch with what's going on with you. And it's not all about them. So I hope that's as exciting for you as it is for me, because when I've seen, well, one of, putting this into action for myself has been radical and continues to be radical. And when I see my clients do this, transformation happens, literally transformation. So this is not just a mind over matter sort of thing. This is getting in relationship with yourself. And this is something that you can do. And you just need to maybe watch this recording again so that you can get all of those steps. You can go on my Facebook group. I'll have that link in the chat afterwards, where I have videos about automotion and walk you through the steps more and provide support for you there. Okay, this is something that you can choose to do today, which is pretty freaking awesome. So I'm just watching the time here, and I want to make sure that we get to the script. Thank you, Jenny. She put in there 15 minutes left. No problem. So in your workbook, I hope that you had a chance to download it. I've got for you 4 different scripts. These scripts were developed. Thank you. These scripts were developed from my experiences in my relationship. I had gone through some the Gottman couples therapy method. I went through the training for that. I went through the training for emotionally focused therapy. I went through imago therapy. So all of these theories were in the back of my mind, and of course, Clear Mind with their family systems theory. All of these were in my mind. And what I developed is a different flip on it a little bit. Whereas instead of just pulling out a script to work through conflict, I've developed scripts for you to be able to help establish trust in your relationship. So remember at the beginning, I talked about how so many people don't feel like their partner has their back. Well, something that I realized just, in the last 2 years is that we actually don't set ourselves up for success in our conversations. We don't tell our partner what the heck we're up to, nor do we tell them what we want them to do, right? So for example, even when I was making these scripts, I was so excited. I finished the scripts. It was at the end of the day. My husband walked in and I went rushing out to him from the office, and I'm like, I finished my scripts. I'm so excited. And I started telling him about them. And he was excited for me. And then kind of midway, he's like, oh, and he started giving me different names for them. And in that moment, I was like, I felt diminished. I felt like, you don't get me. And it's because he was contributing and he was giving his ideas, which were great, but it's not what I wanted. What I wanted was actually somebody to be like, yeah, high five, way to go. How did it feel? Right? So I wanted a witness, I wanted a kind of like a sounding board. I wanted someone who would speak back a little bit, but not start all of a sudden telling me what to do or fixing. Right? How many times have you gone to someone and you're wanting to share, especially, so this is the piece for the tender part, and it's critical for trust building. The times that you've wanted to share with your partner something that is insightful, right? So it's vulnerable, it's a new experience for you, or it's tender, it feels tender to share. And you find yourself not doing it because you're afraid that they will either try to make you feel better, which ends up dismissing or discounting. They may want to, jump on board and start naysaying the other person, which again is not honoring where you're at. So when we're wanting to share something vulnerable and tender, what we really need in that moment is to be heard, to be witnessed, and to be validated. Most of our wounds from our childhood are moments that are simply missed moments of connection where we're not validated in our ideas. We're not validated in our experiences. And that's a key piece. As humans, we're wired for connection, and we're wired for that heart-to-heart connection. So these scripts are designed to help you facilitate setting up the heart-to-heart connection. So I want you to flip to the back right away. We're going to start at the back, and in there it's the Appendix A, and it's called the partner contract. This is something I do with all of my couples. I have them sign a contract that anything they use in session, anything they share in session, any vulnerable disclosure, that is absolutely never to be used in future against your partner. Never. That will absolutely damage your relationship. So if you notice you're doing that, stop it. Really, stop it. Because do you want to hurt your partner? Do you want to diminish their sense of safety in your relationship? No. Sometimes you might want to get mad at them and sting them, but I doubt you want to actually hurt them at the core. Okay, so this part is all about getting the partner and you to sign the contract, to agree to, you're going to just speak from I when you're sharing. You're not going to use that time to unload on your partner. You're going to never use anything shared in that setting against your partner. You're going to agree, again, that this isn't about dumping, and that you both agree to that the space that you're creating is in your highest good. Now, I bet some of you right now are going, this is fine and dandy, but my partner will never do it. Right? The beauty of this is when I started doing this with my husband, and when I have had him do this with me, it actually provides the receiver, the listener, with a sense of relief, a sense of purpose, an understanding. So now all of a sudden you're telling them, hey, you know what? This is what I want to share with you right now. And what I really want from you is, one, just be there for me, be there with me, and just hold space. Please don't, this isn't a discussion. And when fixers in the world get that kind of instruction, it gives them permission to not take on the responsibility. It gives them permission to just actually sit back and listen. So they're actually more engaged because you told them what you actually want from them. Okay, and this is two-way. They get to do this with you. The next one is a sounding board. That's where it involves them to be active listening and witness your ideas and to be curious about your intentions. So you'll see in the scripts that it just has a little bit more and more activity from your listener as you go along. So they'll start saying something like, great idea, you're onto something, like, oh, that's cool. Or, wow, that sounds really hard. But they are not contributing at this point. Okay? And the bouncer script, this is somewhere where they are starting to collaborate a little bit, to, go, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, did you remember this one that you had said before? But it's not ever solution focused. So the bouncer script is about being able to have that bouncing back of ideas that you can often have when you're with like-minded friends and you're all working towards a solution. Remember, when you're going to someone and you've got this great idea, this creation, this excitement, when we have creation, it's vulnerable. It's our creation, right? We're kind of wrapped up in that a bit. And so we're sharing it with them, and they're on the outside. So giving them the script of how they can contribute gives them permission as to, okay, this is what's wanted from me. And again, time and time again, I hear from the listener is a sense of relief. And what I and my husband have experienced through this is when we commit to this, when we sign the contract and we walk through it, we get to experience a level of trust with each other. So this is somewhere I know that if I pull up to him and say, I need you to be a witness for me right now, can you do that? Right? You always want to honor what they're in the middle of right now too. Can you do that? And he says, yes or no, or, I'm in the middle of something. Can we do it after dinner, or can we do it tomorrow morning? Yeah. And then, I got to pull up my big girl panties to continue to move forward for a vulnerable share. And we follow up. And I know in those moments, I trust in those moments that he's going to be the witness for me. I trust that I'm going to be the witness for him. Right? So it's all here for you to be able to do that. The problem solver script, this is about if you want actually collaboration. Okay. Again, it's very focused on telling the listener to remember that it's about your idea, right? So they're to remind you of things that you've said in the past, or they're to add to your idea. They're not to fix. But this would be the place if you are wanting advice. My husband is brilliant at being able to figure out systems and come up with steps. And so when I'm struggling to come up with a system or steps, I'll go to him and say, hey, can I have you to problem solve with me for a minute? And can we set up that time? So the key pieces here, one is that you are going to intention to your partner. You're going to say, hey, I have something I'd like to share with you. I'd like to bounce some ideas off of you and have you just witness me as I'm figuring things out. Can you hold that space for me right now? And they get to reply yes or no, right? You both have read through this. You both have signed the contract. And then when the time is right, you both sit down and you walk through the appropriate script for you. So, I want to close with just reminding you that, I know I've shared a lot with you here today. Anything that resonates with you, anything, please pop over to my Facebook group. It's Relationship Mastery, a Safe Place. And it's a private, closed group, and it's a place where I support people to step into these different ways of trying to be in relationship with themselves and being accountable in their relationship. So pop over there. I would love to support you. If you have any questions or if you're needing some clarity, just pop in there and let me know. Our contact information is available on my website's at the bottom there. And I will be putting in the chat a free care guide for self-care. I didn't really talk a lot about it, but it's really, really important while you're trying new things, and especially when you're starting to look at your accountability and what you're bringing to relationship. You really need to remember to be in relationship with yourself, okay? And I'm going to put in that free meditation, and that will guide you through those steps of being able to get in touch with your sensation and actually find your needs and your boundaries there. There's so much wisdom in our emotions. And then last I'll put in there is the Facebook group, the link. So I'd like to close with you on what my mission is. And then I'll do Q&A. My mission is to, let me say it this way. Imagine a world where our kids are encouraged to be all the expressive geniuses that they are. If you think about those toddlers and they are fully expressive in every sense of the word, imagine a place where we honor and value emotions. Imagine a world where we are integral in our relationships and we own all of our half of it, where we show up completely and we own what's going on for ourselves. Imagine a place where we can show up and we can have somebody allow us to be in our emotion, where they're not fixing, they're not diminishing, they're valuing. Imagine a place where our next level of generation, they know that there's wisdom in their emotions. They know that when they can access their emotions, there's an internal guiding system here, a guiding system that is fully connected with each and every one of us, a guiding system that is connected to the divine. And by being in that space, we are more in a space of love and connection and human than we could ever be if we continue to diminish the value of emotion. So my mission is to bring integrity back into relationship and to value emotion. And so with that, I'd like to, if there's any questions, I went through the script a little bit quick. If there are any questions that you have, please pop in. Jenny, you might need to pop in to share how they do that, because I haven't been on this format before.
Yes, hello. Wonderful. Thank you, Taunya.
Thank you.
And so questions. So attendees, if you drag your cursor down or bring it over top of Tanya's picture, her video there, it should have a Q&A pop up. It says Q&A. You click on that and you can ask your questions. Let's see. Does anyone, we can also try it in the chat here if that doesn't work. Anyone have questions for Taunya?
Welcome, Janice. Thank you.
All panelists and attendees. We're all new to this system, but it's pretty good.
Thank you, Ellen.
Are you seeing people pop up, Taunya?
I'm just seeing them on the chat.
Where? I'm not seeing it. Oh, wait. Here we go. Here we go.
Yes, imagine.
Yes.
Thank you, Vicki.
Good. So that's another way. Maybe that's even easier because, Taunya, it's easy for you to see. So we'll just, any questions, just type them right into the chat there. And that's easier for all of us, I think. If you do use the Q&A box, I will get notified.
And I'm going to go ahead and copy those.
Yeah, why don't you give us those links? People can see if they have any questions. Yes, loads of treasures in there. I must say, yes, Taunya and I are very close friends, and I've also gotten wonderful guidance from you on to use some of those types of vulnerable share, and always encouraged to step into sharing and with my partner, my husband. And every time that I set up the space where we can hear each other in that vulnerability, it moves our relationship miles, and it creates that sense of closeness and connectedness again. Even if we don't solve whatever the issue is in that moment, I find that the connection gets restored, that we're on the same team. I think you mentioned that as well.
I'm not sure.
Is that feeling someone has your back? What's that?
Are those links popping in?
Is what?
Are those links going into the?
I think there's a delay. You put it, because I didn't see all the. I think they might pop in. You put them right there in the.
I'm trying to put them in the chat, but I'm wondering if my. Yeah.
I have a question for you, but I'll let you find those links. I think I have your links too. Because you've got some good, wonderful things they can take home and work with there. So why don't we say too, if for some reason we can't get the links up right away, when we come back at just before 10:45, we'll make sure they're in there. That was for the meditation and the self-care guide.
Yeah, and the Facebook group.
Yeah, so, I'm going to discuss being valuable scripts for families. Right, so there's a question. You want to say who else you might use these scripts with? Good question. Excellent
question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vicki, for that. These scripts are useful for anyone. Really, it's what we do in our primary relationships are the exact same things that we do in all of our relationships. And with that statement, I get a lot of objection because they're like, no, I show up differently at work. I don't take my boss's head off, or I don't take my husband's head off. But the part that we're bringing, right, the part of us, we're the constant that happens in all of those relationships. So we actually do enact the same dynamics, the same things that we bring to a relationship. We do it with everyone. So absolutely, if you have a friend that you're struggling to have a discussion with, pull out this, ask them to sign the contract. I have yet to have anyone not want to participate in it. So if you face that, I want to know about it. I want to know about it and I want to help you through it. Okay. And I'm not selling anything there. I want to know about it. So pop into my Facebook group. Because I also, I want to learn through all of this too, because I want a different in this world. If you're having trouble with your employees or employer, then please do bring that into work. Use these scripts. You'll notice, even if you don't have the full buy-in from someone, if you start your discussion by saying, hey, this is what I'm up to. I'm about to share something tender with you, or I'm about to share something that is from my heart. Is that okay? You'll notice a massive shift, right? Not only are you being aware of what you're about to step into, you're also setting your listener up for what the shift is, what's going on. You're letting them know what you're up to. Okay. Yes, Deborah, I'm absolutely going to put that Facebook group link in. For some reason, I'm just struggling with that, but we'll do that when we come back from the break, Jenny just said. And I'm, again, like I want to change the world. So I want you to try this. Try it. Please try it. And let me know where you come up against your walls, because I'll help you through that. Okay, in that Facebook group.
And so, Taunya, we have a question in the Q&A. I'll read it to you. It's from Sai. And he's along this changing the world. So he says, being a hockey coach for many years, I can relate to your story about parents in the crowd. Yes. I am so curious how we can get Hockey Canada to see the value in your talk to all parents. I'm sure so many parents are not aware of what is really going on.
That's so... I'm getting goosebumps with that one, Sai. Thank you so much for recognizing that. And absolutely, that talk that that story that I shared is actually on my YouTube channel. It's called "So Your Kid is a Superstar. It Doesn't Mean You Are," something like that in the title. So by all means, like, share that, because it has, it has the accountability piece in there, and it comes across gently because I'm talking about me. And I'm all about, if you have somewhere that you think that I should be talking, like Hockey Canada, I would love to speak to them. I would love to be able to, oh my goodness, help some parents just kind of own their stuff, right? Own their stuff so their kids can be their kids. I walk my talk, everyone, and I am not perfect. I make mistakes, and I struggle with my relationships with my kids at times. And bottom line, when my kids are in trouble, they come to me, and one of them is in a lot of trouble these days. And she's coming to me, and I think it's because the peace. I believe the most powerful mom I can be is a mom that owns my experience, holds on to my emotions, and allows her to have her experience. Right? When we can own ourselves and we can let them be them, then they're free to show up however they want. Just like that vision I have for the world. Can you speak to when the reverse happens in a relationship when you are the recipient? And I think, Vicki, are you referring to when somebody's coming to you to talk to you with the scripts? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So when I have had my husband, because he's really the only one who does this with me, Jenny and I will do this together as well. But oh my goodness, when somebody comes to me and says, I'm going to share vulnerably, all of my thinking, fixing, doing hat comes off and drops. You can't see my hands. I went like this and just goes, I'm like, okay. I'm like sitting back in a chair and like, tell me what's going on. Like, my experience is that I'm not responsible for holding anything. I want to just be there in my heart for them. And it's like, what are you going to share? My goodness, what are you going through? And or when my husband will come to me and he'll say, before there are scripts with that person. And so what it's like as a recipient when I don't know what's coming at me, is that what you're meaning? Okay, so yeah, I mean, I've been there lots, and I still continue to step into, like I said, with the scripts. Okay, I'm running out, I'm not so excited, and I tell him what the heck I was up to. Yeah, he'll start in on, and same with Jenny. Anybody, they'll start in on a discussion, sharing something, and I, if I'm not grounded and in my body and present, heart to heart present, I will often find myself going to solutions, right? So if I'm in my mind and I'm receiving what they're saying, I'm in solutions. Sometimes I'm in solutions, we are in solutions to avoid whatever feeling that they're feeling, because we don't want it to transfer. We have this belief that whatever they're feeling, we're going to automatically feel because of our mirroring neurons in our brain. It kind of enacts that a little bit, but it's not true. It doesn't happen. When we have that going on and we don't realize that we don't have to fix, we don't have to make them feel better, that we don't have any responsibility here, it's very hard for us to just be present for them and receive them. But I do notice that when I am solid in my body and I'm present with them there, that I'll hear through that anyway. And I know the very key that we all need is just to be witnessed and validated. So would we just get clarification with them, what they are wanting from us? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, hey, what are you wanting from me right now? And I'll say that to Dean, my husband. I'll say, hey, are you wanting feedback or are you just wanting a sounding board? That's generally where I jump with him, because it's not super often that he ends up, just coming straight with a tender share. But always in those, when I'm being that caring audience, right, the caring audience, his tenderness will come up anyway because it's invited. So yeah, setting it up. Remember, it takes one person to change a relationship dynamic. I was the one who started it with us. I'm blessed that my husband decided to join me, but it was 4 years of push and pull and me deciding, am I in, am I out? We faced divorce. We faced all of those possibilities. We went through a lot of challenges, absolutely. And I decided to enact all of these steps. And I believe, and my husband has agreed with me, that by my showing up differently, by my owning my half of the relationship, by me bringing my heart to the relationship, it allowed him to show up with his heart in the relationship. And so over time, we've developed this incredible, safe, connected relationship. We still get triggered, but we come back and we can enact that safety again. Okay. I don't see any more questions, and I think Jenny's about to do the old off the stage.
So I think too that what we'll do as soon as we go to the break here, we'll get those links in there for sure, and that YouTube one about is your kid. What you have to tell me again the title.
Yes. So you think your kid is a superstar doesn't mean you are, something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
It's a Taunya Zipse YouTube.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Yes, wonderful. So we cheer. I know you can't hear the droves of everyone cheering, but it was so wonderful to have you join us, Taunya. Thank you. And to those who were asking, yes, there will be a recording. Oh, wait, there's another Q&A. Let's see. We've got 2 minutes. Oh, bravo. Mark Robertson. Thank you, Mark. Yes, bravo. All right. So we will say goodbye to our lovely Taunya.
Thank you, everybody, so much. And best wishes to you as you try any of this out. Compassion, compassion, compassion to yourself. And if you need support, we will have that link for you in the Facebook group.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for doing this. You are such an inspiration, as I said. And I'm so grateful for you hearing your calling and stepping into that calling. And again, another quick little plug to Dwayne and Catherine. I'm so grateful for you too, for the program, the integrity that you have in your programs. And I'm excited to hear you speak. Ella and Nige, I'm so excited to hear you speak as well. Other Clear Minds graduates. And then Dana, my dear friend, I can't wait to see the healing that you bring today.
All right. Thank you.